The president of Ghana has called an emergency cabinet meeting for Wednesday, February 11th, to discuss the ongoing crisis in the cocoa industry. Cocoa farmers have not been paid since last year's harvest, and mid-crop harvest is coming 2 months from now in April, which means that they have to be settled and we have to raise money to pay them again for the coming season. There is that. And two, Ghana has been struggling to sell our cocoa beans amidst a global decline in cocoa supply. If there is a global decline in supply, it's supposed to be easier to sell beans. But COCOBOD is telling us that they are struggling to sell it. So again, next week, the World Cocoa Foundation is having a meeting to discuss the crisis. So Ghana will have to go before them rich white people in Amsterdam to tell them why their children cannot get chocolate, as if they've asked us to help them deal with their obesity problem. That is what they have the DJ Khaled pill for, not Ghana declining to supply them with cocoa. Anyway, my name is Nenebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. On this channel, I talk about geopolitics and trade from the perspective of an African. And so if you like intellectual conversations broken down in digestible language, subscribe to this channel. Now let's get into why we are in the crisis. And some of it is political. So in 2016, when the Mahama administration was handed over to Akufo-Addo administration, COCOBOD had a surplus income of about $400 million, which means that COCOBOD was not in debt. By the time the Akufo-Addo administration handed over to COCOBOD at the beginning of January 2025, COCOBOD was in debt to the tune of, let me confirm numbers, of $4 billion. Which means that from 2017 to 2024, there's been a huge mismanagement of the finances of COCOBOD. So in a way, I understand the CEO of COCOBOD, Dr. Randy Abbey, blaming the previous administration for the issues COCOBOD is dealing with right now. But here is where I disagree with what Randy Abbey has been saying in the news so far. In February 2025, Randy Abbey went on BBC and used the debt as the reason why Ghana cannot pay farmers more money. And in April, when Ghana's economy, April last year, when Ghana's economy started taking the positive turn, there was a call for him to increase the market farm gate price of cocoa. And again, he declined because he said we have some old debt to settle. And you know what? The mid-crop season of cocoa happens between April and July. So Ghana had between April and July to raise enough cocoa beans to settle our debt and deal with our problems. And so in August 2025, when Dr. Randy Abbey announced that what's the name? He has increased the market farm gate. I keep calling it market gate instead of farm gate. The farm gate price of cocoa. Farm gate is how much farmers are paid. He has increased the farm gate price of cocoa. Everybody was of the thought that he might have settled the old debt. That is why he is doing so, right? So he had a whole mid-crop season to deal with that, and he didn't increase it. So he increased at the end of the season, which means that it will only apply to the next season. And it was in August. But the season begins in October. But just before the season began in October, Ivory Coast increased the price of cocoa in their country because they had an election coming. So you know how African politicians are. They only do the right thing when they need votes. So Ivory Coast increased the price of cocoa, and Ghana and Ivory Coast are competitors on the world market. So Ghana also decided to compete with Ivory Coast by increasing the price. And also remember, around this time, the world price of cocoa was at an all-time high. And so it made sense to people to hear that Randy Abbey is increasing the price, right? Because you had a whole season to settle the debt. And you increasing the debt to the public means that you've settled the debt, right? And now, Randy Abe is still using the same debt as the reason why farmers are unpaid. Is that not financial mismanagement? So in February 2025, you said you were in debt, so you could not increase the price of cocoa. And you had a whole season from April to August. And you said you took advantage of that season to pay your debt. And in February 2026, you are using the same debt as the reason why farmers are unpaid. Are you not the worst financial manager in the history of the world? Anyway, let's forget about Randy Abe. He's just a symptom of the problem, not the problem itself. But I think President Mahama needs to fire Randy Abe. But he's up to him what he will do. But aside that, right, there is a bigger problem going on in the world now. Ghana is struggling to sell cocoa beans on the world market, which should not be a problem. Why? There is a global decline in cocoa supply. So whenever there is a global decline, whoever has the product becomes the most important person. So Ghana should have an easier time selling cocoa, right? Wrong. Why is that? They have been found in cocoa farms some levels of lead and other dangerous metals. So yes, the cocoa that we are selling in Ghana, it has been detected that there is lead and other dangerous metals in it. But as it stands now, the metals are at a not dangerous level. So almost every food and water you drink in the world would have some lead in it. It is not dangerous. Your body needs metals. It's not dangerous. When it goes a little bit above a certain level, it is not dangerous, but it is a cause for concern. And now, the lead available in Ghana's cocoa is at a cause for concern. And it's been found by UNICEF and Ghana's Food and Drug Board that the cocoa that have high level of lead, even though it's not yet at a dangerous level, are cocoa farms that are found close to mining sites. Basically, galamsey is affecting our cocoa industry also. And that is critical for three reasons. Number one, cocoa is Ghana's third biggest export and our most reliable export. Gold, oil, oil is number one, gold is number two, and cocoa. In terms of value, in terms of how much you pay for it. I believe now gold is number one, oil is number two, cocoa is number three. Right? But oil supply in Ghana is going down because oil is a finite resource. Gold supply is at an all-time high. Ghana is benefiting from the supply of gold on the world market. We are building our economy on the back of gold, which is a good thing, except for the fact that gold price is bound to come down. It is at an historic high. The rate at which it is at right now, the only place it can go is down. So when gold price crashes, we need something to sustain our economy. And that is where cocoa comes in. So we need to keep our cocoa supply chain going. At this stance now, gold is doing everything for us, but there is a reason why even the Bank of Ghana is diversifying our portfolio. When it comes to business, when you have only one thing you are selling, anything that happens to that thing affects your entire economy. So Ghana having three diverse products we give to the world is good for our economy. That is why it is an emergency that requires the attendance of the president and his entire cabinet. And so I hope by the end of Wednesday, the president and his cabinet will find a long-term solution to the crisis we are facing in the cocoa industry now. It is not just about paying farmers. That is important. But it is about revolutionizing the entire industry. Now, the number of people who have farms in the world is going down, not just in Ghana. So other countries in the world are finding ways to mechanize their farming. In the US, they are using AI to do crop planting and in some cases harvesting. But it's easier to use AI for planting than harvesting anyway. So we are close to a point where we need to start employing technology in our farming industry in Ghana. And I believe that when the president and his cabinet meet on Wednesday, they will come to this conclusion. My name is Nenebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. On this channel, I talk about geopolitics. So subscribe if you like breakdown of issues from my perspective. I'll talk to you later.